The canon, ganoun, a kanoon, is a string instrument played either solo, or more often as part of an ensemble, in much of the Middle East, Maghreb, West Africa, Central Asia, and southeastern regions of Europe. The name derives from the Arabic word canon, meaning rule, law, norm, principle, which is itself a phonetic borrowing of the ancient Greek word kappa alpha nu omega news, or Latin equivalent canon. Traditional and classical musics executed on the canon are based on Maqamat. Makamlar is the historical relative of santur from the same geography. Canon is thought to trace its origins back to Assyria, where an ancestral homologue might have been used in Mesopotamian royal courts and religious ceremonies. The instrument today is a type of large zither with a thin trapezoidal soundboard that is famous for its unique melodramatic sound. Regional variants and technical specifications. Arabic canons are usually constructed with 5 skin insets that support a single long bridge resting on 5 arching pillars, whereas the somewhat smaller Turkish canons are based on just 4. This allows Arabic variants of the instrument to have more room for the installation of extreme bass and treble strings. Canons manufactured in Turkey generally feature 26 courses of strings, with 3 strings per course in the case of all regional variants. Contemporary Levantine designs use nylon or PVC strings that are stretched over the bridge poised on fish skins as described on one end, and attached to wooden tuning pegs at the other end. Ornamental sound holes called cafes are a critical component of what constitutes the custom timbre of canon. However, they normally occupy different locations on the soundboard of Turkish canons compared to Arabic canons, and may also vary in shape, size and number depending on geography or personal taste. The dimensions of a Turkish canon are typically 95 to 100 centimeters in length, 38 to 40 centimeters in width, and 4 to 6 centimeters in height. In contrast, an Arabic canon measures a bit larger as mentioned. Canon is played on the lap while sitting or squatting, or sometimes on trestle support, by plucking the strings with 2 tortoise-shell picks or with fingernails, and has a standard range of 3.5 octaves from A2 to E6 that can be extended down to F2 and up to G6 in the case of Arabic designs. The instrument also features special metallic levers or latches under each course called mandals. These small levers, which can be raised aloud quickly by the performer while the instrument is being played, serve to slightly change the pitch of a particular course by altering effective string lengths. Tuning and temperament. On the regular diatonically tuned canon, Mandal technology was first implemented, according to Turkish musicologist Rauf Yekta, some 30 years prior to his submission of his invited monograph on Turkish music to the 1922 edition of Albert Levignac Encyclopédie de la musique, a dictionnaire du conservatoire. Levantine canons, prior to that time, remained rather inflexible and cumbersome to perform on, requiring the player to use the fingernail of the thumb to depress on the leftmost ends of the courses to achieve on-the-fly intervallic alterations. With the advent of electronic tuners some decades later, standardization of the placement of reference mandals on the canon began. While Armenian canons now employ only equidistant half-tones and Arabic canons exact quarter tones as a result, Turkish canon makers went so far as dividing the electroacoustically referenced equal-tempered semitone of 100 cents into 6 equal parts, yielding, for all intents and purposes, 72 equal divisions of the octave pitch resolution. Not all pitches of 72-tone equal equal temperament are available on the Turkish canon. However, since canon makers affix mandals that only accommodate modulations, transpositions popularly demanded by performers, this has subsequently led to the familiar interrupted and irregular pattern of mandals on the Turkish canon becoming a visual guide for players, in facilitating modal and intonational navigation on an instrument which is ordinarily bereft of pitch markers. Some canon makers may also choose to divide the semitone distance from the nut of the lower registers into 7 parts instead for microtonal subtlety, but so at the expense of octave equivalences. Despite the mentioned discrepancies, hundreds of mandal configurations are at the player's disposal when performing on an ordinary Turkish canon. On the other hand, the nowadays widespread application of equidistant 24 tones on Arabic and 72 tones on Turkish canon models presents an ongoing source of controversy. This is particularly in regards to how adequate such Eurocentric octave divisions are in faithfully reproducing the traditionally or classically understood fluid pitches and inflections of Arabic music or Ottoman classical music scales. Pitch measurement analyses of relevant audio recordings reveal that equal temperaments based on bike-chained multiples of 12 are essentially not compatible with authentic Middle Eastern performances, substantiating the notion instruments strictly based on them would clash audibly with a justly tuned in-tone tambur, udne, or kemanche. Alternative tuning approaches for the canon thus also exist. Turkish music theorist Ozanyarman has proposed, for example, an academical 79-tone temperament for the expression within tolerable error margins of Maqamat, Makamlar.As at all pitch levels, that was implemented by the renowned late luthier Ozanyarman on a Turkish canon. Likewise, the late Swiss-French canon performer Julian Jalal-ed-Din Weiss, who was critical of the tuning deficiency of Eurocentric octave divisions in approximating just intervals, is known to have conceived, since 1990, a number of prototypes that were entirely based on low prime limit or simple integer ratio Pythagorean and harmonic intervals, which were once again built on instructions from Weiss by Ozanyarman.